All right, so we got the 11-14 spoilers, the full summary here. We're pretty much going over the full chapter. And it turns out that sun god NIKA is coming from Elbaf, which, I don't know, might confirm that Joy Boy possibly came from Elbaf. I don't know. It's being revealed here that Elbaf is involved in this by Vegapunk. A lot of revelations here, so let's get into it. So the chapter begins with more reactions from people around the world. The Marines are very confused by Vegapunk's revelation, and Aka Inu appears angry as always. All right, we're getting to see Aka Inu in this chapter, which is pretty cool. I wonder how he's gonna react once it's eventually revealed that like the world government are the bad guys. We see Doflamingo, who discusses Vegapunk's words with Magellan and says that they should go to a higher place. So that's really interesting. We all know that Daffy is still a major player in this series, maybe not so much on the power scale, but just significant wise, and the stuff that he knows, like he definitely knows that Emu is a thing and sits on the empty throne, and he very likely knows that the world government is in control of Uranus. I think that one of his major plans was to get control of Uranus, essentially. It hasn't been outright stated, but it's implied that he knows that, and you know, him being a celestial dragon and everything, so him conversing with Magellan here might be what leads to him escaping Impelled Down, which we also assumed is inevitably going to happen. There are more reactions from people before we return to Egghead, where we have more important revelations. Vegapunk makes a hypothesis saying that the sea level will rise 1 meter due to earthquakes, proving that it is not something caused by a natural disaster. So 1 meter is not really that much, but I don't know, maybe in the grand scheme, it's a pretty big deal. But him saying that it's not caused by a natural disaster pretty much, I guess, proves that it is Emu causing this. Now, we talked about this in the previous video, but it's probably due to Emu's use of Uranus, which is the big thing that fires from the sky powered by the mother flame. You know, the more impacts that it makes into the ocean and the earth, like when we saw it recently destroy Lelusia, it left like that void in the ocean, and the narrator said that the sea level had risen as a result of it. So I guess if you just keep doing that, the sea level around the entire world will just rise and, you know, eventually engulf islands, which I guess is implied to have happened before. Like maybe that's why the Void Century is called the Void Century, because everything was kind of just reset by that big flood from Emu constantly using Uranus possibly. And another reasoning for that could be Emu having some kind of water manipulation devil fruit. Maybe not just exclusively that, like it could be his or her devil fruit with a combination of Uranus possibly. But speaking of the Mother Flame, Saturn continues forward to try to destroy the Denden Mushi and enters the Mother Flame. Mother Flame is a small flame inside a giant tank, similar to what Vegapunk's head was like. Okay, so first of all, Saturn making it through the Straw Hats here. I don't know if he's defeating them or if he's just like, get out of my way, insects, and they couldn't really do anything to him because we saw them fighting him in the previous chapter. That is more realistic. They shouldn't be having like some kind of, you know, power of friendship takeover at this point. I guess you can reserve that for the final arc. Mother Flame being small here is pretty interesting, and I also pointed this out in my previous video that I think we've seen the Mother Flame on the mural that Enel looks at on his cover story when he goes to the moon. Like this little thing inside of this circle, which I think is Uranus, or at least like a crude depiction of it. Vegapunk continues talking about 900 years ago and how he got too close to the sun. Emu in Mary Joie reacts silent. So I guess that's why the title of the chapter is called Icarus Wings. Vegapunk, in his search of information, as he got deeper and uncovered a bunch of secret stuff, it was him flying too close to the sun, which eventually got him killed. Emu reacting to this, so I guess we're seeing Emu, of course, silhouetted. Not saying anything, so it's fine. I'm sure Emu will eventually react to maybe the reveal of Joy Boy at the end here. Vegapunk says that his second sin is that he continued researching poneglyphs and ancient history. Vegapunk says that he doesn't know everything that happened, but that he will start telling what he knows. While Luffy attacks Mercury again using Gear 5, Vegapunk talks about a person who was born 900 years ago in an advanced kingdom. Okay, Luffy back in Gear 5 again. I guess all it took was for him to eat some of that fermented shark that Dorian Bragi gave him, because like he gassed out and then he needed that food. So I don't know, maybe he could just go into it for a little bit again, because he definitely can't fight Mercury like outside outside of Gear 5. But yeah, going back to Joy Boy, born 900 years ago in the Advanced Kingdom, he had a body that stretched and struggled like the sun god NIKA of Elbaf. That man's name was Joy Boy. He was the man who took to the seas and the first pirate in history. The end. Break next week. All right. So that's the big reveal there. So we knew that Joy Boy was coming from the quote-unquote Advanced Kingdom, which we still don't know too much about, except it was, 900 years ago, and they eventually lost to the allied forces of the world government that were led by Imu and the Gorosei. So now we also know that he pretty much had the sun god NIKA fruit, since it's saying he stretched and struggled, and there was all kind of implications all over the series that, Joy Boy was sun god NIKA or had the fruit. I don't know if they're one and the same. Like I speculated before, I think Joy Boy and sun god NIKA are two different things. Like, sun god NIKA was kind of just like an idea, like the dreams of people who were being oppressed manifested into the devil fruit, as per what Vegapunk was saying about like where devil fruits come from, like the manifestation of people's dreams essentially. And then Joy Boy was the first guy to eat that fruit, and then he became the liberator of those people. So what I think this means is just that the idea of the sun god NIKA came from Elbaf, which might mean that the big tree that we see there, which is implied to be the Adam tree, like the wood that the Thousand Sunny is made out of, maybe that produced devil fruits, along with Sunlight Tree to Eve, which is implied to be over Mary Joie, and then the third tree would probably be the whale tree on Zunisha. All three of those trees probably produce devil fruits, and it's very possible that the sun god NIKA fruit came from the tree on Elbaf, and Joy Boy came from the ancient Advanced Kingdom, ate the fruit. I don't know if this confirms that he is a giant, or Buccaneers also lived on Elbaf with the giants, or the Buccaneers came from the giants, like maybe a Buccaneer is like a hybrid between a human and a giant. I won't get into the logistics of that and the mating involved. So Joy Boy being the first pirate is also really interesting, because I think that means that he was like the first to maybe go against everything that Imu and the world government were trying to establish. Like, maybe they did have kind of like a proto rule at first, and then once he started going out and liberating people on the seas with his ships and whatever, his crew, maybe that like started all the piracy. Even though like Joy Boy probably wasn't like what we consider a pirate. I mean, Luffy isn't really a pirate either. He's like a superhero at this point. I mean, even early on in the series, he was never like doing pirate stuff other than just sailing around on a ship. He was always like saving people and stuff. So I'm sure Joy Boy was doing the same thing, and maybe that's what being the first pirate was. So I guess it's supposed to go in cycles, because there's always like a new Joy Boy, like, and maybe they're not all literally like reincarnations of him essentially the way that Luffy is, but how like Roger sparked the new pirate era. It'll probably wind up being Luffy who bookends everything. Joy Boy being the first pirate, maybe Luffy possibly being the last. Maybe once the world is liberated, there will no longer be need for pirates. I don't know. Yeah, pretty wild stuff here. Let me know what you think about Joy Boy and NIKA coming from Elbaf in the comments, guys. And if you liked the video, please give it a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.